advertisers, or even its viewers. The information contained in this program is not to be confused with medical or legal advice. An appearance on this platform is not necessarily an endorsement, but as always, we encourage you to do your own research. Enjoy the show. Good evening, everyone. And of course, welcome back. Yes, it's time for another very exciting episode of Red Pill News Live. Hope you guys are having a lovely day. Thank you so much for joining us. I trust everyone here had a wonderful weekend. Great 4th of July. Hope you had a good time lighting off fireworks, celebrating the independence of our nation, our 250th birthday celebration. Now we're into our 251st year. Well, on our way to our 500th celebration. Hopefully, a republic we'll be keeping. Well, Klaus Schwab has reared his ugly head from the innards of his volcanic lair in Supervillain Mountain. Not only is he plotting a comeback at the World Economic Forum, but apparently he also found a listening device somewhere in his home. Who put it there? I don't know. Maybe it was one of his friends at the World Economic Forum, or maybe it was Interpol. Maybe it was the Central Intelligence Agency. I don't know. But we have so much to discuss, so do me a favor, hit that like button, hit the thumbs up, hit the heart, hit the red pill, whatever it might be, and then sit back, relax, and grab your popcorn, because we're going to be right back after this.
Science proves that a healthy immune system is the body's first defense against the smallest of ailments to the most catastrophic. Coriolus Versicolor is the most sought-after, all-natural supplement for both humans and pets to help boost the immune system. There are over 400 studies worldwide on its effectiveness in humans, including Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, MD Anderson Cancer Center, and now from the University of Pennsylvania School of Veterinary Medicine. Together, we can help reverse this terrible tide now plaguing your loved ones and give them the immune-boosting supplements that they need.
3 boys taught me 2 things. Summer is an adventure and bugs are relentless. As an herbalist, I know you don't need harsh chemicals to protect your family. Here at Tamarack Garden, we've got you covered with natural sunscreen, mosquito and tick repellent that's even safe for your pets, a salve to draw out bug bites, and soothing sunburn cream, all made with the power of plants. Because we think summer memories should last longer than the bug bites. Tamarack Garden, protect your family naturally and eat your weeds.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you guys are ready to get into it because we have a lot to discuss. First of all, we've got to do a proof of life check on Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell has still not appeared on Capitol Hill. Apparently, he is still recovering, convalescing, and doing rather well inside a local hospital down in Kentucky. But if I had to guess, I would say that's probably BS. I think Mitch McConnell is on life support. We talked about this last week. We've actually got some confirmation about that. But first of all, before Mitch McConnell shuffles off this mortal coil, I bet his family has got a whole lot of business to get through. First of all, his daughter and I believe his wife both are no longer on X. They have taken their accounts offline. Either they've deleted them or they have simply hidden them from public view, deactivated them for a period of time. And I believe that Mitch McConnell's wife is still in China. Now, He's been in the hospital going on 3 weeks or something like that, supposedly getting better, supposedly getting ready to come back and work again in Senate. But I just don't think that's going to happen at all. Now, if I was recovering from a heart attack in an ICU and my wife wasn't there and she was hanging out with the vice president of China instead, I might have a bone to pick with her. However, if Mitch McConnell is never going to wake up again, well, that would make a lot of sense. So let's check in with Desiree Townsend. Desiree is actually the reporter who initially broke the story about Mitch McConnell's likely passing. Now, she has been camping out at the hospital where Mitch McConnell is currently being treated. His envoy of guards are there from the Capitol. And she has also been checking out the situation at Mitch's home. And as long as Mitch has been in the hospital, it appears that no one has been active at the home. So confirmation that his wife is not there. She's not even in town. She is definitely still in China. And Lord knows where his daughter is. But let's go ahead and take a listen.
Everything happened. I didn't see him come out. But
oh, you saw the paramedics here?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you seen any family? Has no family has come?
I haven't seen anyone coming or going from there.
Yeah, because I know his Capitol Police detail, they're over at the hospital, so I just thought so his wife, Elaine Chao, was found in China 3 days after he went into cardiac arrest. So we're trying to figure out where she is. It doesn't look like she has come back to the house. So I was wondering, have you seen her at all?
No, I haven't seen anyone.
Oh my God. Can you explain what happened?
I have to go to work.
Oh yeah,
I'm so
sorry.
sorry.
Have a great day. Thank you for your help. All right, everyone. So talk to a neighbor who was, I guess, here for the cardiac arrest event when the paramedics were called. Apparently no family has come by here yet. So I don't think Elaine Chao has come back from China yet, potentially. I don't know if they have a home in Kentucky or not, but it doesn't sound like she's come back.
All right, so that sounds like that is their brownstone in Washington, D.C. By virtue of the fact that Mitch McConnell is the senator from Kentucky, they must have a home down there. Otherwise, they're not truly residents of Kentucky. And he couldn't represent Kentucky. I mean, that's a prerequisite. We went through this with Eric Swalwell in the state of California. Now, as I said, rumors are swirling today that Mitch McConnell is on life support. And eventually they are going to be forced to cut off that life support. And then, of course, they're going to have to announce that he's no longer alive. The longer this charade goes on, the more obvious it becomes that Mitch McConnell is not going to recover. I mean, mentally, the man has not been present in the Senate building for the last several years. And physically, he was barely showing up. And when he did show up, it was essentially just so that he could trip and fall in an inopportune place and break a hip or break a knee. It's been kind of sad to watch, even though Mitch McConnell is a sneaky snake. So I saw Laura Loomer had posted, high-level source close to the White House tells me Mitch McConnell is officially brain dead. He's not coming back. If it was just Laura Loomer, I probably wouldn't report it because she comes up with a lot of stuff that I have found to be less than accurate. However, Desiree Townsend, the original reporter that I had mentioned, said, I have also heard the same thing from my sources for several days. At this point, I'm at the hospital for when they eventually decide to move and cut him off from life support and then move his body. His Capitol Police detail is still here as of 3:39 p.m. Eastern Time. So it is a foregone conclusion, I believe. It's only a matter of time before Mitch McConnell is finally announced as having expired. And from that point, we will probably have to have a special election. Now, I've seen a little bit of conflicting information about this online. Initially, I had read that if Mitch McConnell died before August 3rd, that would trigger a special election. But if he died after August 3rd, there would no longer be any time for a special election. However, Desiree has actually looked at the actual law, and she said in the law, which states that there must be a special election in the event that a senator must step down or dies while in office, there is no time limit. There's nothing that says they have to do it by August 3rd. So that appears to be some type of arbitrary number that somebody on the internet has thrown out. The one thing that I can tell you is it would have to be a special election. The governor would not be able to appoint a new senator. And of course, the person who would be elected in that special election would only fill the remainder of Mitch McConnell's seat because, of course, he is not running in the next term, and there will be a new senator for Kentucky come January. So it may likely be the Republican candidate who ends up running in the special election if they even allow it to get that far. But right now, as Mitch McConnell is not officially dead, that means that his staff can vote in his stead, and they'll be able to continue to control the direction of the Senate. Mitch McConnell, I think it's time, buddy. It's time. Everybody, let this man die. Let him die and put him out of its misery. All right, now, a couple of things from over the weekend. First of all, we had, of course, the 4th of July America 250 celebration in Washington, D.C. We will take a look at some of that. But first of all, Lisa had found what is probably the most epic individual fireworks demonstration that I have ever seen. You can see here you've got two gentlemen who are wearing some type of jig made out of 2x4s, and there appears to be just an entire shield full of bottle rockets on the front of it, but this is pretty freaking sweet. You know, that might have been just like 1,000 Roman candles. I don't know. I have no idea how they built that, but it's pretty wicked. I love it. All right. Now, also over the weekend at the America 250 celebration, Christopher Macchio sung Nessun Dorma. There were some people who were wondering if we were going to hear Nessun Dorma during this particular time, because obviously it would be highly relevant to a lot of what we believe to be going on. Now, if you know, the Nessun Dorma is the song that I actually play in my introduction. It plays in the film The Sum of All Fears when the president is having all of his enemies assassinated near the end of the film. Now, I'm not going to play the entirety of this rendition of Nessun Dorma, but right here at the end, when Christopher is finishing it up, he, in English, translates what the seminal line of the song is.
Ladies and gentlemen, that means, in Italian, no one sleeps. Because no one sleeps tonight, and we hear our president speak.
President Trump gave a great speech this weekend. He did a great speech on Friday. We watched it on OnlyLans. The good people from the GART 12 chat, they put together probably the most beautiful Trump bingo card that I've ever seen, and it was perfect. It would have been perfect for any other Trump speech except for this one. President Trump discombobulated all of us. I looked at the bingo card and I said, oh man, I've got this on lock. Like, President Trump is probably going to say enough things on this bingo card to give me bingo within 5 minutes. But he didn't say a single thing. He focused on, honestly, just one subject, and that was the reconstruction of America, fighting communism, and ensuring that we keep this republic moving forward. It was a perfect speech. It was exactly what I think a lot of people needed to hear, and perhaps it was not what some people wanted to hear, but, you know, oftentimes you don't get what you want, you get what you need. So, no one sleeps. Just remember that. That is what the enemies of President Trump are not doing right now. Check out the gun drummer. Oh, you know what? I played the Star Spangled Banner on the plates the other day. Let's go ahead and copy that link address, and we'll check that out. And in light of the Sum of All Fears, I actually...
Imagine being able to build
God, hang on. I gotta get past this ad real quick. I have a short clip from Tom Clancy that I thought would be fun to listen to. Once a year somewhere on Earth, This is going to get me a copyright strike on YouTube. Hopefully they don't shut the video down. Oh my God, that's too good. That is too good. Oh man, I love that. Okay, I'm going to share this out because I don't want the video to get shut down this early in the broadcast. But I want to show you guys this. So Tom Clancy was a bit of a national treasure. He did the commentary track, or one of the commentary tracks on the DVD for The Sum of All Fears. And this is just about a 2-minute breakdown. But if you ever saw the Baseless Conspiracies that John and I did, where I talked about the sudden strange death of Tom Clancy, he's the kind of man who was not going to be silenced. He was going to tell you exactly what he believed. And oftentimes that did not necessarily mesh with what the administration wanted him to say. So take a listen to this.
I'm Phil Robinson. I directed Sum of All Fears, and I'm honored and pleased to be sitting here with Tom Clancy.
I'm Tom Clancy. I wrote the book that they ignored.
We didn't completely ignore it.
You got a couple of things right.
Yeah.
He probably would have avoided that. It probably would have taken more than one to get him. This is bullshit.
Just every single thing that Tom Clancy has to say about the movie is that it's wrong, it's BS, you guys didn't even listen to what I wrote, you did not pay attention to what I said, this would never work. Tom Clancy obviously came from the military and intelligence world, and so he knows what he's talking about. That's why he was such a great author. If you haven't read Tom Clancy, you guys probably should. It's definitely worth a shot.
Wrong kind of airplane. That's supposed to be a bomb or a torpedo?
A bomb.
Wrong proportions.
A torpedo.
Wrong proportions for that, too.
Oh, that was a trick question.
They all die trying.
I told you beforehand, it's bullshit.
Well, now, you told me that we had originally 5 or 6 people, and you said, well, 2 or 3 maybe. So that's why we changed it to 3.
Oh, okay.
Geometry of high explosives inside a fission bomb.
It's called the physics package, by the way.
These are 4 hours old, Russian 12th, 15th, and 2nd.
Pictures aren't good enough.
Hitler, however, had one great disadvantage.
Does anybody really believe this except in Hollywood?
Well, I'll tell you, I look around the world, and I think there's more fascism on the rise than communism. Extreme right-wing parties doing very well in Europe these days.
Yeah, all 12 of them. It's the left-wing guys who end up throwing the nukes, not the right-wing guys. Because they get themselves back into corners, and then to the point their only alternative is to lash out with nukes. Whereas people on the right wing tend to stop it early. It's just the way. I mean, I'm not making that up for political reasons. It's just the way it plays out.
Oh, I'd be happy to debate that one with you some other time.
This is bullshit, by the way. Unless he was one of the machinists, which is how I do it in the book. How the hell do they know the self-bombers are just lifted off?
Well, don't they monitor this stuff? They have radar, they have satellites.
The whole point of stealth, Phil, is you can't see it on radar at all.
I said get a doctor in, Mr. President. Yes. Colonel, bring in the launch codes.
Good. He wasn't a good character anyway.
On that note,
I think it's a little overdone, but yeah.
Just trashing the movie the whole time. It's so funny. Oh, man. Oh, Tom Clancy was great. Thank you again to Chafed Bum for sending over the Gun Drummer video. Thank you to Denise Ann, too, who says, hey, Zach, not sure if you have this one on your list, but it was a pretty awesome. Happy 250. Well, we might as well go ahead and take a look at it. Let's go ahead and see. There were so many pictures and videos from the fireworks that I couldn't possibly put all of them together, and I figured everybody spent all weekend doing fireworks, but oh, yes. Okay, here we go.
The past 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so, and there are massive fireworks going off pretty much in every direction that you see here. Jasmine, Our local fire departments and police departments have been begging people not to do this, but it seems tonight they are not listening to those calls.
Well, and they're putting up new warnings on.
Now, is this new or is this from a couple of years ago? Because I actually talked about this last week when California had banned fireworks and they were saying, please don't do fireworks. And then literally everybody in Los Angeles was doing fireworks. It is pretty based.
Social media. I mean, they're saying safe and sane are even banned in the majority of cities in LA County, not to mention the city of LA has a ban as well. We know many of the public shows have been canceled, so we've done stories on this. More people have been, unfortunately, setting off illegal fireworks. I mean, it is quite the sight, but this is not supposed to be happening. I mean, you could be fined up to $50,000.
But of course, then you could also burn down an entire neighborhood and get off scot-free. It's hilarious to me. You know what doesn't happen when people light off fireworks in LA? Nobody's neighborhood burns down. But you have one leftist with a cigarette standing in an uncleared lot full of debris and refuse and, trees that have fallen down. And, of course, they throw that cigarette down and then everything burns and everybody loses their house. And that guy didn't get fined $50,000. He got a hung jury. All right. Now, over the weekend, also at the America 250th celebration, we officially shattered the world record, guys. I didn't know this initially. I mean, there were 850,000 or more fireworks that went off in D.C. this weekend, and that was just what the government spot or sent up into the air. It doesn't count all of the fireworks that people in the region were doing. Now, this was an official record, the Guinness Book of World Records, for the largest fireworks display ever recorded. Of course, President Trump, you go big or go home, and he wants to go big, especially for something like America's 250. You don't get another shot at that. He was also almost unable to speak. There was inclement weather, and they were getting people indoors, and eventually he did come out. I believe he spoke about 11 p.m. I don't remember exactly what time he went on. He was supposed to go on much earlier, but he said apparently, there's no way that I'm not speaking tonight. We're just going to wait it out, and that's exactly what they did, and the people who came to hear him speak, they were happy to sit and wait. So this fireworks celebration was about 40 minutes long. They had it in multiple locations. Obviously, 850,000 fireworks is a lot. And that included positions along the Potomac River. And it eclipsed the last largest fireworks donation, which was in the Philippines during the New Year celebration of 2016. That previous world record was 810,904. Now, President Trump said, I'm going to give you guys the biggest, bestest fireworks celebration you guys are ever going to have, the largest in history, and he definitely did not exaggerate. There was one company who did this for the United States. That was a Pennsylvania-owned company called Pyrotechnico. 5 generations of fireworks and pyrotechnics at this American-owned company. And they used advanced computer simulations and I guess many, many years of expertise. I guess they do the Super Bowl and a lot of other major events, so nothing was going to go wrong. And of course, with so many fireworks, I mean, you've got to have a lot of staff on hand putting all of that together. Let's go ahead and check it out. This was pretty incredible. Here we go. And it's like there's so many fireworks. There's so many fireworks. You've got all of this smoke from the fireworks. I saw like MSNBC was apparently very nervous that people in D.C. were not going to be wearing masks. They were not going to be wearing surgical masks, airway protection. Like, come on, okay? This is just like one event, right? I don't think anybody left D.C. with a brand new case of asthma or anything like that. It kind of looks like Apocalypse Now, really. going to turn that down just a little bit. The number one hit, USA. My goodness. Yeah, we did fireworks here on Saturday night. Look at that. Yes. Oh, pretty incredible stuff. Let me see. Oh, yeah, here. This is a really good one. This is the beginning. I would imagine you could have been looking in any direction on the National Mall and you would have seen, boom, just fireworks going off all around you. How cool is that? I know a lot of people traveled to D.C. this weekend, and I was like, oh, man, when I saw that the weather was going to be bad, I was like, well, first of all, are they doing it? Are they trying to make sure that people don't have a good time? But it all cleared up in the end. It's kind of like the UFC fight, how there was a major storm coming in right over D.C., and then it just split like Moses in the Red Sea, went on either side of D.C., and everything went off without a hitch. Let's see. BDR1776 says, when did Mitch get rushed to the hospital? Was it the fireworks show that pushed him over the edge? No, it was the heart attack on the floor of his bathroom roughly 3 weeks ago, where he was found not breathing, and they had to resuscitate him with CPR. And I've talked about this. I mean, an 84-year-old man getting CPR. If you guys have ever seen somebody doing CPR on a real body, or even on the dolls that they have, I mean, like, you got to go hard so that you can get that heart manually pumping. And his rib cage would have been totally busted up. They would have had to intubate him after that if they got him breathing again. Maybe they gave him a shot of adrenaline. Who knows? But Mitch McConnell is definitely not waking up. I mean, as soon as they put that guy on life support, as soon as he was found dead on this floor, there was no bringing him back. I mean, Mitch McConnell has had a good run. I mean, for him, not for the United States of America. He's had a long enough run on his end. It's Tony. Hey, Tony, good to see you, buddy. He says, hey, Zach, I'm doing good. I hear you say you're going to try Alp. Oh, guess what? I just got my Alps in the mail. There we go. I got some mango freeze right there. I got lemon raspberry right there. Currently, in my jaw, I have some lemon or blueberry lemonade ice. And then there is also island peach, which I'm excited to try. Previously, I only had the wintergreen. I had some spearmint too, but I don't care for spearmint really. I like the wintergreen. I've been using it since they opened. I used before vape and now just Alp. I recommend the new drifter flavors. My favorite is the mango freeze. Yeah, that was what I ordered. They sent me an email showing that they had all these new flavors, and I was like, yeah, just send me the grab bag. Let's go ahead and try it out. So yeah, they're very good. And I am using the 12 milligram ones, guys. If you'll notice, I haven't hardly been vaping, and that's because I'm using the Alp as well. Okay, now getting back into it. But Tony, it's good to see you, buddy. I'm glad you're doing okay. Hope you're coming along just fine. Hope your physical therapy is doing good. All right, you guys. Real quick, before we continue, I do have a very brief message from the next sponsor of the program, and that is going to be my friends at Neutronics. Thank you very much to Neutronics. And we can take a look right here. So they have a special deal going on right now. If you guys sign up for auto ship on their Man's Edge Testosterone Booster product, you are going to get 50% off automatically. You are also going to get a free bottle of Platinum IGF-1. And the Neutronics Labs Man's Edge Testosterone Supplement is specifically formulated for guys who want to keep their edge. If you want to just generally improve your health, if you want to feel more vital, if you want to get better performance at the gym or at home, if you know what I'm saying, you will have boosted energy levels, increased stamina, and as I said, overall well-being. This is a great way to go ahead and take care of what you need as your body starts to get older. It's got a whole bunch of great stuff in it, including 25,000 nanograms of IGF-1, but then you get the free IGF-1 bonus along with it. It's also got a potent blend of things like Tribulus terrestris, fenugreek, longjack, L-arginine, L-citrulline, and nitrous oxide. And if you know what nitrous oxide is good for, then you probably already know what I'm talking about. But safely boost your body's testosterone levels without having to take shots of endogenous hormones that are not made by your own body. Go ahead and check it out, neutronicslabs.com/red pill. And when you use that code red pill, you will also get an additional 10% off of the deal and the free stuff that they're going to be giving to you. Thank you so much to Neutronics Labs. I appreciate you guys supporting the show. Okay, guys. So also I need to say thank you to Principled Enigma, who says, I wasn't there, but the fireworks were even more awesome on the internet. $1.7 to $1.8 million, 4 times larger than the one in second place. And then AOB22 says, happy Monday, Zach. I know you will appreciate this. For America's 250th, I got a birthday gift of a CZ Scorpion Evo 3S1 Freedom Seed dispenser. Let's go ahead and pull this up so the people in the audience who may not be gun aficionados can see exactly what this bad boy looks like. That's a great little home defense weapon right there. Yes, I am 18. There she is. All right, now, did you get the pistol or did you get the carbine? Honestly, this is my favorite right here. I love little home defense pistols like this. And also, what is it calibered in? Is this 9mm? These are 9mm. I prefer 300 Blackout. It's a little slower. But it's a dead stopper, if you know what I'm saying, if you got to stop somebody, and it's not necessarily going to come out the other side. You kind of want to make sure that it's going to stay rattling around and not end up going through your walls after it goes through the intruder. But yeah, very, very cool, AOB. That's awesome, dude. You got the pistol. Okay, sweet. Yeah, those are great. Those are great guns. All right. Now, also... this is a bit of a comedy piece. So Salon.com apparently thought it would be a good idea for the America 250th celebration if they would write a fan fiction piece about how the world would be different if Kamala Harris had won the 2024 election. Now, this is obviously very funny because if Kamala Harris had won the 2024 election, America would be very different, but it wouldn't be any better. In fact, I would argue it would be immeasurably worse. Just think about how bad things were when Joe Biden was living at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. If Kamala Harris had moved in there, my God. Did you guys happen to see House of the Dragon, Season 3, Episode 3 last night? I tend to think that Rhaenyra kind of losing her mind as she is now queen and everything's falling apart. I could see Kamala Harris having the same sort of thing happening to her. All right, so this is the article. Since Donald Trump has turned our nation's 250th anniversary into a celebration of himself, complete with grift, let's imagine a 4th of July that might have been. In this alternate history, the 2024 presidential election ended differently. Vice President Kamala Harris was elected the 47th president of the United States. 2 years later, the nation is still marked by political polarization and economic uncertainty. Okay, and that's better than Trump. How? On July 4th, 2026, America celebrates 250 years since the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Perhaps the most striking feature of this alternate 2026 is tonal. The central theme of Harris's speech at the 2024 Democratic National Convention was "Take Back the Flag," a message she has touted since her days serving as a California senator. Since her closing arguments during that campaign emphasized turning the page on division, it's safe to say that unity in the name of patriotism would be her paramount goal during the festivities. That is obviously very absurd. Kamala Harris taking back the flag. I think that Kamala Harris might be wiping her ass with the flag and putting up a Somali flag in its place. I can't imagine Kamala Harris doing anything to increase the amount of patriotism or pride in the United States of America under her reign as president. It would be just a series of laughable comedies of errors over and over and over again. They continue by saying Back in Washington, D.C., the atmosphere feels less like a presidential production and more like a national family reunion. You got Kamala right there in the tub washing greens. She's got ribs on the barbecue. She's got chicken that's been smoking for hours. Instead of the protective fortification of concrete barriers and razor wire, the National Mall is marked by a sprawling, deliberate openness. Well, of course, if Kamala Harris would have been selected by the powers that be, Antifa would have been disbanded. They wouldn't have been called in to start tearing up national monuments. And besides, all the national monuments would have still been covered in graffiti and human excrement. There would have been no need to make it look any uglier than it already was. Do you think no one remembers how the Democrats put up barriers, though, during Washington, D.C. after the 2020 election? Remember how afraid they were? How Washington, D.C. looked like a war zone because we dared to say that the election of 2020 was stolen? You remember when the election hadn't even happened yet and YouTube deleted me for even suggesting that maybe the election wasn't going to be fair, that it might just be the fakest and gayest election we'd ever seen? I remember. I certainly remember. Now, the Democrats are afraid of patriots. The Democrats hate people who love America. And they continue by saying the Harris administration would treat the 4th as a civic report card. They would have told you everything that was still bad about America. Why you shouldn't feel proud to be an American or have any faith or pride in what it means to be a citizen of this republic. This is what they believe the country would have done. Here is who has benefited, and here is what still needs to be fixed before the 300th. In that world, fireworks might be accompanied by announcements about climate resilience, gay projects, or summer meal expansions for children. I might as well just get my gaydar up on screen because this is 100% certified. Let's just have that blaring over there on that side of the screen. And the idea that fireworks would be set off with an announcement about climate resilience, the only thing that's missing is perhaps a public land acknowledgement at the start of Kamala Harris's speech. I am Kamala Harris. I am a brown woman with Indonesian descent. My father was a black man from Jamaica. I'm wearing a red dress, and I'm also wearing a blue set of shoes or something like that. And this is native ground. I want to recognize that this is the same ground that the Potawatomi Indians at one time used to live on. I don't know if the Potawatomi Indians lived in Washington, D.C. It was probably somebody else, but you get the sentiment. Anyways, these people are totally insane. It's not nearly as a beautiful a life as I think they would like to believe it might have been. And I think that I might have just closed no, I did close the correct tab. Okay. All right. Now, also over the weekend, President Putin of Russia called President Trump to congratulate him on our 250th anniversary. Now, this was not just a casual call. It wasn't just a, "Done, it's Vlad. Happy birthday, America. Goodbye." No, they talked for an hour and 15 minutes, 85-minute call. And apparently during this time, President Trump offered once again the help to end the war in Ukraine. And this is now going to be the final conflict, the final countdown to the final conflict that President Trump will be able to notch on his belt. That'll be 9-10 conflicts that President Trump will have single-handedly had a part in putting to rest. So past, present, and future, all in a single phone call in the midst of the celebration for America's 250th anniversary. President Trump somehow in the midst of putting together all of these celebrations, making sure everybody was on point, making sure that every T was crossed and every I was dotted. He also had the opportunity to speak for 85 minutes with Vladimir Putin. And I imagine there were probably many different world leaders that wanted to give President Trump a call. We learn about this in an article by Sputnik. The call was initiated by the American side. That is highly interesting. It's not that Putin said we must speak with America on their 250th anniversary. President Trump, on this auspicious occasion, said, you know what I want to do? I want to call Vladimir. Get me Vladimir on the phone, and we're going to sort this out right now. So the Russian president also recalled Russia's contribution to the formation of American statehood, and he wished President Trump continued success in hosting the FIFA World Cup in the United States. I often wonder if President Trump has the soccer ball still that Vladimir Putin gave him so many years ago during his first term. Also, of course, a good chunk of that phone call had to do with the Russia-Ukrainian war. There were some developments in that war over the weekend, some perhaps more disturbing than others. President Donald Trump, speaking to Russian leader Vladimir Putin by telephone for nearly 90 minutes, offered to help find a solution to the Ukraine war. Kremlin aide Yuri Ushakov said in statements made public early on Sunday. Ushakov said Trump made the offer during the call on Saturday, U.S. Independence Day, in the context of his participation next week in the NATO summit in Turkey. Ushakov, who described the conversation as businesslike and quite constructive, said Russia sought a political diplomatic resolution of the conflict with due account of Russia's fundamental approach. Ushakov said Putin depicted the real situation on the battlefield, where the Russian armed forces are confidently advancing, liberating one locality after another. And remember, if it wasn't for Russia, then the United States would not have won World War II. Of course, there are a whole bunch of different side tracks that we can go down with that, but more Russians died in World War II than any other people on Earth. The Russian people gave their sons away so that these people would not advance any further around the world. And, of course, you can have value judgments about the necessity of that war or the reasons for it, but either way, that's what happened, and here we are today. Now, in addition to that, I don't know if this was after President Trump and Vladimir Putin spoke, but there was an attack on Kiev, and I'm not going to say Kyiv because I think that's totally lame. Let me get the gaydar off the screen, though, because there's nothing gay about Putin. There was an attack by Russia on Kiev in the middle of the night. And, it's interesting because Putin said, we are advancing, we're liberating, we're getting the Nazis, the Kiev Nazis out of the eastern portion of Ukraine. Pretty soon we're going to make it into Kiev. And if they don't give up by the time we get there, then it's not just going to be the eastern portion of Kiev that Russia holds on to. We might as well just keep the whole thing. And then, of course, Russia will have common borders with a whole bunch of European Union states, which is obviously not what the European Union wants. Although it just might be what they need. It might be what they need so that they understand that Russia is not just going to continue to advance. But, as any sane person will tell you, if you, as a sovereign nation, attack another nation, you should probably be prepared for the coming onslaught of that nation defending itself. So, the mainstream media will tell you that Kiev is winning. They are winning this war against Russia. Now, there have been attacks on Russian infrastructure. There was an oil refinery that was hit over the weekend. There have been attacks in the southern portion of Russia, not far outside of Moscow, that we showed you a couple of weeks ago. But there is a 800-mile front line that Russia has pushed into Ukrainian territory. And there was recently a key victory in Konstantinovka, which opened the way for an assault on the Slavyansk-Kramatorsk fortress belt. And the Russian army liberated 4 settlements in the Kharkov region all at once. Now, groups of Russian forces established control over the settlements of Shikovka, Novy Mir, Chereshknica, and Druzhalovka. None of those were pronounced correctly, and I am certain of that. As well as in Vasilevska and Donetsk, which are in the Donbass. Now, when it comes to the gruesome exchange of drone missile combined strikes, Ukraine does have success in their efforts. They are using missiles that are provided to them by the Western nations, NATO-aligned nations, and others. And they have hit Russian civilian and military targets. What's interesting is that in Ukraine, I tend to notice, and I actually got some flack for this recently. Somebody had come into the chat and they said, how can you justify Trump having hit that school in Iran where, there were 132 girls that were killed? Okay, first of all, Who told us that? Well, it was propaganda that came out in the fog of war. I know it was widely reported by the mainstream media, the same mainstream media that I generally don't trust. So how can I be certain that the United States, with a missile, hit a school and killed all those little girls? I can't, to be frank with you. Not saying it didn't happen, but I'm not going to bet any money on it. But what I can tell you is that in smaller nations, whether it's Ukraine or Iran or in the Middle East, other places, what these governments tend to do is put military targets behind civilian targets so that when the military targets are hit, civilians are killed, and then they can go ahead and wave that around as some sort of bragging rights and then say that the attacking forces or the responding forces are just committing war crimes. Apparently, that's what Ukraine is doing right now, actually. There have been these reports of Russia hitting these civilian targets inside Ukraine. But what's really happening is that Ukraine has these covert drone-making facilities, which are, say, within tenement blocks or within residential areas, or they're inside of a business or something like that that would, publicly have nothing to do with drone making or with weapons caches. And then they come out and they say Russia killed all these civilians. When Ukraine hit that college dormitory that was full of Russian young people in their 20s, those were actually all students, and there was no military target there. So I don't trust Ukraine on any of this stuff. But in this latest strike that took place, it was Russia hitting military industrial facilities again in Kiev and in the surrounding region. And it was quite spectacular. There was the Kiev 71 industrial enterprise. They manufacture long and medium range UAVs. The Kiev 1 electronic industry assembly plant, which produces long and medium range UAVs and radar equipment. Kiev 79 industrial enterprise, which manufactures and supplies armor protection components for the Ukrainian armed forces. The Kiev shipyard, they manufacture boats and attack boats, that kind of thing. Kiev 1 instrument making plant, they produce fine control systems, optoelectronic countermeasure systems, navigation and automation equipment. The Vishnev fuel and lubricant warehouse facility, they have diesel and other types of fuel stored there for ration and emergency use. And then finally, the Zaluzhny missile assembly and components plant. They manufacture their anti-aircraft missile systems and components for aircraft and air defense systems. Now, me saying that Kiev is putting civilians as a shield in front of their military targets is not just a person from the United States, spouting some propaganda. I actually saw this from a Ukrainian journalist in Kiev who has long been a supporter of the regime and who wants his country to win. But he has now come out publicly and said, I can confirm that this is exactly what the Ukrainian government is doing. They are using their own civilians as shields, and they are putting these military targets inside civilian zones. And I think that Russia has actually been really good about trying to not kill civilians. I mean, for several years now, every time there's going to be a strike in one of these areas, they send a warning and they tell everybody, you better get out. And I haven't really seen any reports coming from inside Ukraine and Kiev to show that you've got mass casualties or something like that. So I tend to believe Russia in this instance. Now, I'd like to show you guys these missile facilities being hit because it is pretty explosive, and obviously we just had the 4th of July. Bombs bursting in air both here and in Ukraine. Now, less certain about this, but Russia is also reporting that Patriot missiles that were launched by Kiev as a counterattack measure went off course and then actually hit a Ukrainian apartment building. I saw the video of it, but you don't see where the missile is initially coming from. It kind of does look like it's not quite going right. I tend to believe it because there have been a number of other reports throughout this war of Ukrainian missiles that appear to be veering off course, whether it's human error or maybe they're just old and the components are not working properly. But they've always tried to blame it on Russia, and then it turns out that it's Ukraine. Now, the other thing that I was trying to report on all last week, I just never got to it, is that Ukraine is now a state sponsor of terror. Not only did they commit the destruction of the Nord Stream pipelines, and there is a Ukrainian that is now on trial for that in Germany. There was also an attempted assassination of a Ukrainian oligarch that happened last week. He was in a hotel in Monaco with his family, and a woman dressed as a man, I think she was wearing a mask and clothes that dressed like a man, she came in and she left a backpack bomb in the lobby of the hotel, set it off, and, well, she ran away and then set it off. The oligarch himself had previously been not nice in his characterization about Volodymyr Zelensky. He had spoken up, and I think that Zelensky wanted to silence him. The man's wife did lose both her legs. His 13-year-old child was also there in the hotel. Let me remind you, this is a foreign nation that has nothing to do with this conflict, and you have a bomb being set off in a hotel. I mean, how is that any different from a terrorist attack that's taking place by, say, a Muslim or a group of any kind? It doesn't matter. It's terrorism, and there are many, many more people who could have died. It's like the Beetlejuice music. Yes. Gets you right in the mood, doesn't it? Now, it's also being reported that one of these locations that was hit was a depleted uranium depot. And there are now fears that perhaps there is a nuclear contamination scare that is going on there. Now, if that is true, I'm certain we'll probably hear about it. There are sensors, long-range sensors, that exist for just this sort of thing. The EU is probably going to be all over it. I would imagine Russia, if that happened, they're probably going to be talking about it as well. Now, Kiev themselves, they might try to cover that up because it might have something to do with uranium-1. So they may just want to protect their interests in that. But that is definitely an aspect of the story that I am keeping an eye on. Let me say thank you very much to Denise, who again says, part one, I was talking to a patient today about the fireworks at the National Mall. She asked how much that cost. I said, I don't care. Imagine the jobs it created, and it's for our country's birthday. Good for you. I mean, and it's not like there aren't fireworks every single year. It's like the same idiots that would say that are like, oh, God, how much did it cost to fix the reflecting pond, to put down a blue liner? How stupid. Okay, well, how much does all of the water, 50,000 gallons of water per day, 365 days a year, how much does that cost? Okay, like, you do a cost-benefit analysis or give me a P&L report on whether or not it's a good idea to stop the water from leaking altogether, and then you will never have to pay for 50,000 gallons of water leaking out every single day. Denise continues by saying, I'm much happier with it going to hardworking Americans than back into Congress's money laundering deep pockets. She agreed with me. LOL. I am incredibly happy and proud to be a U.S. citizen. I'm proud of you. Great. That is awesome. Principal Enigma, is there a way to access and search the chat after the broadcast? No, there isn't, because Rumble does not have a replay on the chat. So unfortunately not. And then even for me, after a few minutes, the chat will sort of drop off and I can't see something that is older than 5 minutes. So it is what it is. Okay, now, President Trump has just been honored. We actually talked about this when it was announced. This is another thing that pissed liberals off over the weekend. But Palm Beach International Airport is now officially known as President Donald J. Trump International Airport, and they actually changed the sign on I-95. I-95 is the highway that goes north-south down here in Florida. It's all along the coast. But you can see here, people were just raging at the fact that we have President Donald J. Trump International Airport now. And again, I heard people saying, well, how much did that cost? What, to change a sign? You know, I mean, like, they got to change those signs every couple of years anyways. So who cares? I mean, it's a negligible amount of money, especially when those are the same people complaining about the cost of changing those signs. So those are the same people who want to give out free drug kits with free crack pipes, free needles, and free condoms, and, you know, come up with whatever you can think of. They want to give that stuff away, or they want to give free food to illegal aliens. They want to get a free rent to illegal aliens. You know, I mean, like, I am all about fiscal responsibility. I would love it if Congress would spend less than they actually spend on a yearly basis. And I would be happy at a base level if they just, like, stop spending more money every single year. Like down here in Florida, we are now on, free sex changes. Okay. Free sex changes for everybody. Free drugs for everybody. Free hormones for everybody. It's ridiculous. In Florida, we just signed our 4th year of budgets that are less than the year before. And I'll tell you what, things are great down here in Florida. I don't have any problems with my city services. I don't have any problems with the services that the state of Florida is providing for me. We've got tons and tons of tourism going on down here. I cannot wait to vote on the repealing of property taxes in November. Yeah, they're still going to get me for something, but it's going to be enough that my house payment is going to go down. That's awesome. All right, so back in February, they had announced that they were going to be changing the name of the airport. And to all the leftists out there, the state of Florida, not the federal government, set aside the $2.75 million to help cover the rebranding costs. So it didn't cost you anything if you live in Illinois, California, Wisconsin, Maryland, or Virginia. And it didn't even cost me anything either, because the state of Florida has got a budget surplus every single year. We've got a rainy day fund. All right, a rainy day fund that is going to be funded for years and years into the future because it's such a great state. People want to come here and they want to spend money here. No matter what they tell you, our beaches are maintaining. Our beaches are holding strong. Of course, erosion is a concern on any coastal area. But there's enough sand in the world. They just put some new sand in every couple of years. They go out and they dredge it and they bring it back up and everything's fine. So, yeah, this cost all of those idiots that are upset about it absolutely nothing. All right. Now, we also, of course, because it was a holiday weekend, had what can only be described as a series of unruly youth takeovers, as it appears we do every single weekend. You know what? It doesn't even have to be the weekend. It could be a Thursday night. It could be a Tuesday night. And if you've got a group of black kids in a semi-urban area, then for some reason they think that it's cool to just act the fool. Now, this was in North Charleston, South Carolina, and a female cop and a male cop were attempting to arrest somebody. And this group of kids just, like, jumped on top of her. But the kind of funny part is, it's scary, but you still got to laugh, is that one of these kids had a homemade spear, like some kind of caveman type thing. Anyways, this was a neighborhood block party. It was permitted, so it wasn't illegal, but apparently the police came in earlier that day and they met with the organizers of the event. They had to talk about traffic and what they were going to do when they shut the road down. They had to make sure that emergency vehicles had to get into the area if they needed to. And it was approximately 8:30 p.m. when the people who were at this event started shooting off guns. And they were also shooting off fireworks at passing vehicles. So, lighting off a Roman candle or a bottle rocket and then shooting it at somebody. Have you guys ever had a fireworks or anything like that go off in your home or in your car, God forbid. I mean, it's not a lot of fun, okay? I've seen it happen, and it can be devastating. You could, go blind if you're in your car. You could lose your hearing if you're in your car. You could obviously have your entire house burned down. In your car, you might have a giant hole in the seat next to you. But so the police showed up, and during this response, they had multiple firearms and this makeshift spear that were recovered. We've got video from the incident, and it's very unfortunate, but it once again shows you that, I'm sorry, but, I don't think women should be cops. Let me just get past this. Okay, let me make this big. So, this poor female officer, she's got two, it looks like, two men. No, that one's a woman. And that one's a man. Okay, you've got a man and a woman. And I can't even tell if they're kids, to be honest with you. I just assume that this level of irresponsibility might mean that they are younger people. But for all I know, they could be 30 and up. Let me turn that down. So then the male cop comes in. And he saves the day, almost shoots one of them with his taser, and the guy just runs off. And then he's, boom, a knee to the sternum. And I can't tell, I think that's another cop, another female cop. Yeah, who got this other woman down. So kudos to her. But here's the thing. It goes to show you that anybody gets the jump on you and they can take you down. It doesn't matter if you're a cop or even if you're experienced in this sort of thing. So here's the stuff. They recovered these guns. I wouldn't be surprised if there were a couple of oh, yeah, look, there's a switch right there. There was definitely a switch on there. So somebody's going to go to prison for having a homemade automatic weapon. Here is that makeshift spear. Who in the hell makes a spear and takes it to a 4th of July barbecue? I mean, for real, for real. Anyways, there were, of course, multiple arrests, and the behavior that is going on here was directly addressed by the chief of police. He pretty much made a plea during a press conference to the community, and he was like, guys, we've got to do something about this because this is totally unacceptable. We need to make sure that every single one of these people is prosecuted and put in prison for the longest stretch of time that they possibly can. I mean, I look at prison as a deterrent, right? Sorry, I don't want to go to prison, but I feel like the people who might go to prison for this, just don't care about going to prison. It's no big deal. I mean, do they know that there are cameras trained on them 24 hours a day? Are marshmallows roasting sphere? Maybe. Maybe. I don't know. I didn't see a bonfire. Anyways, all right, before we continue, I have another message from another sponsor over here on Rumble. If you guys haven't yet, do me a favor, hit that like button. First of all, we hear a lot about crypto. I'm sure you guys do. I talk about it quite often, but there is a critical component that I think a lot of people miss, and that is that crypto was created so that you could actually own and control your own money. If you remember back in 2008, after the financial crisis, the mortgage bubble popping, Bitcoin was designed as an alternative to banks. So that way, instead of a bank holding onto your money, you get to hold onto your money and be in control. You're not going to have delayed transfers. Nobody's going to be able to limit your access to it. It's your money. You're in control. So if you've ever had to wait for a transfer to clear, you understand exactly why that's important. If you fast forward to today, you've heard about crypto, but maybe getting started feels complicated. This is exactly why I love and use the Rumble Wallet. It takes all the complexity out of it. It makes it very simple. You can choose what you want, whether it's Bitcoin, dollar-backed stablecoins, or digital gold backed by real gold. Not complicated to set up. It connects directly with MoonPay, so then you can use your credit card, debit card, or your bank account, and you'll be up and running in just a few minutes. Once you're all set up, you can even use the Rumble Wallet app to support your favorite Rumble creators, whether it's me or somebody else here on this platform. So do this right now if you haven't yet. Scan the QR code or click the link in the description. Then you can download the Rumble wallet, and from there, you just set it up. You connect your Rumble account, and then you can see who you subscribe to and which of us are using it. Tap buy, you're in the game, and in just a few minutes, you can go from hearing about crypto to actually owning some. Thank you so much to Rumble for continuing to... Wait a second. Fort Lauderdale International... Oh, is that what it is? Fort Lauderdale? Okay. Well, I stand corrected. It's Fort Lauderdale International Airport. I could have sworn that I read that it was Palm Beach, but no worries there. All right. And, okay, Principal Enigma, I already read that one. Oh, thank you to Who Cares, who dropped a ship. Thank you, sir. Hi, Zach. Mayor Bowser kinda won. Started with 450,000 people, then she closed it down and ended up with 145. So, yes, is that because of the rain? Either way, there were still people there who were willing to wait it out and experience it. So I would say that she may have won the battle, but she didn't win the war. No thanks, Joe. Thank you, sir, for the cookie. Good Monday to you, Zach and Lisa. I hope you both had a great holiday weekend, and I look forward to the upcoming week of reporting. God bless to all, and be safe. Thank you for that. Sean Joe, thank you for the can and the cookie. And Filter Dog dropped a link. Okay, let me see what this link is. We'll pull that up in another tab. Palm Beach International Airport. Okay, so are you... Yeah. Okay, so, Angel, I was right. Palm Beach International Airport is now President Donald J. Trump International Airport. Okay? So, maybe they're making Fort Lauderdale a Trump airport as well. I don't know. That'd be fine. Trump International Airport, Fort Lauderdale, Trump International Airport, Palm Beach. Who knows? I've never been to either of them, so I don't know. The only airports I've been to here in Florida have been Orlando and Jacksonville, and I prefer Jacksonville. Oh, I'm sorry, Daytona. Love Daytona. That's the best one. Okay. Thank you for that, Filter Dog. Appreciate you, buddy. All right. Now, as we established last week, President Trump has recently changed his language. He used to talk a lot about socialism. Now he is overtly talking about communism. When he came out with that tweet after we had a number of DSA members, Democratic Socialists of America candidates winning in Democrat primaries, President Trump said the communists have made their move. And then he overtly referenced communists in his speeches this weekend as well. As I said last week, the enforcement of the Communist Control Act may be something that we actually see happening. Certainly, it would explain Donald Trump's change of vocabulary, because if you're going to make the case for arresting communists and kicking them out of public office, it's not a free speech issue. It is an issue of just being able to keep the country running. If we have communists that are running the country, we no longer have a republic. So Speaker Mike Johnson over the weekend also did an interview talking about America's 250th anniversary, and he too talked about the threat of communism inside the United States, and obviously that's within the Democrat Party. And he also weighed in on the Save America Act. Now, he did also announce over the weekend that the Save America Act is being included as a budget resolution item so that it can go through the reduced process, so it doesn't have to actually go through the full 60 votes. It will pass the Byrd rule if it is tied to funding. If it's tied to grant funding that will be given to states based upon their compliance with these issues that Congress has legislated, then we'll be able to get it passed. And it will only be the voter ID stuff and the election stuff. No longer President Trump is talking about the transgender mutilization of children. We already had men and women's sports taken up and decided by the Supreme Court. Like I said this morning on Daily with Brian, if you take a look at President Trump's deal-making strategy, President Trump always initially at the outset comes out very, very hard, making for a big ask so that he wears people down. And then at the end of the day, when it's time to actually make the deal, he negotiates for the aspects of what he originally asked for that he truly wanted at the beginning. So now he's dropped the transgender mutilization of children, and we are only talking about the election integrity stuff. So I believe we have a clip of Mike Johnson here. Yeah, hang on just a second. Now, this is a 10-minute clip. I don't want to play that whole thing. But I think that considering the fact that the Communist Control Act is a law put in place by Congress, and President Trump may have to, do some other executive action in order to get the entire country around the idea of enforcing it. We're also going to need Congress on the back end doing the exact same thing. So I think there may be something at play here. It doesn't mean that Mike Johnson is clued into everything, but I think that this man is ultimately interested in self-preservation. It's not good for Mike Johnson if communists take over Congress, the Senate, and the White House. They're going to round up people like Mike Johnson and, frankly, people like us, and they're going to put us at the end of a bullet in an open mass grave, probably on the National Mall. Certainly, we don't want that to happen. Okay, so Rocket Savvy, we talked earlier about the reporting that Mitch McConnell was brain dead. Let me go check in with Desiree because she's actually at the hospital. Okay, Desiree Townsend. Yeah, I'm going to wait for Desiree to report that Mitch McConnell is dead because, again, she's at the hospital. And she is the only one who's on site. Okay. She's also posting some recent videos from Mitch McConnell speaking on the floor of the Senate from earlier this year, which really shows his mental and physical decline.
We're in a quorum call.
Okay, and this is a member of his staff basically telling him what to do.
I suggest that the quorum call be suspended.
Without objection.
Hard power is the cornerstone of U.S. national security. I've never liked calling too much attention to today's date.
Wow, what a year, what a difference a year makes. What a difference a year makes.
February 20th. But I figured my birthday would be as good a day as any to share with our colleagues a decision I made last year.
Okay, so that's Mitch McConnell, February 20th of 2025. He was already starting to fall apart back then.
During my time in the Senate, I've only really answered to two constituencies: the Republican Conference and the people of Kentucky. I will not seek this honor an eighth time. My current term in the Senate will be my last.
Mr. McConnell, aye.
Okay, now here he is, January of 2026. He's being walked in. He's supported on his left by the podiums that the senators use to speak, and then on his right by a member of his staff. Here he is, essentially unable to support himself. He's leaving again very shortly. He's got that boot on his leg. And as you could see at the very opening, Mitch McConnell could barely speak. 1 year later, after announcing his retirement, could barely speak. So, yes, I think it's safe to say that Mitch McConnell was a goner before he died on his bathroom floor and then was taken to the hospital to be put on life support. So, yeah, we'll wait and see if Desiree Townsend comes up with an announcement of Mitch McConnell passing away, because I think that if anybody is going to know it for sure, it's going to be her. All right, now, over the weekend on the 5th as well, yesterday. So, speaking of communism, this is where President Trump, I think, is sort of bringing it all home. He has said on a number of occasions that the Republicans in Congress must do certain things, because if we don't have the balls to do these things, undoubtedly Democrats are going to do things much, much worse. This just goes to the idea that I've spoken about before, which is that President Trump is fully aware of the stakes of this fight that we're currently in. He said that the Republican Party will be dead if the Democrats take power. It'll be a lot more than the Republican Party, pointing to the plans that they have. They announced that they're planning to overhaul the Supreme Court. They're also looking to change the rules of the Senate. Of course, as President Trump has said on a number of occasions, they're also going to give us a couple of new states, a whole grab bag full of electoral votes. And that includes the statehood for D.C. and Puerto Rico. But these open plans of packing the Supreme Court and terminating the filibuster, these are sort of things that they've danced around in recent years. But now I believe that they are feeling the panic of what President Trump has been able to accomplish, both publicly and, of course, privately. And so they realized that if they are successfully able to cheat in this election and take back both the House and the Senate, then it won't be long before they take back the White House, and we will no longer have anything resembling free and fair elections here in the United States. So President Trump wants, obviously, the GOP to nuke the filibuster. He wants them to, of course, pass the Save America Act, at the very least, pass the voter ID requirements, ban mail-in voting, also get rid of cashless bail reform, ending transgender insanity in women's sports. That has been taken care of, I believe, by the Supreme Court, and then ending taxpayer-funded benefits for illegal aliens, which shouldn't be happening regardless. He said the Democrats are going to do that, and most of you will admit the Democrats are going to do that. So why aren't we doing it? And I think only a foolish person would be against that, especially when you realize that these are crazed people. President Trump said that 7 months ago. But Janice Lewis George, who is most likely going to be the D.C. mayor, as well, I mean, I think they have like jungle primaries in D.C. in the same way they do in California. So she's already won the primary. She's going to be the candidate in November. I think the only person on the ballot. And President Trump, God, I hope that he takes back D.C. I just think that that would be the perfect move. But he said if they do successfully make D.C. and Puerto Rico into states, then the Republican Party is dead. And the resolution that was planned supporting these things, President Trump is referring to this. This is from the chairs of the Black, Hispanic, and Progressive caucuses. And they are saying right now that they are going to do these things. They called to end the so-called racial discrimination in voting and elected representation and ensure that all Americans are able to vote. They want to nuke the filibuster 60-vote threshold in the Senate and create structural changes to the Supreme Court. So that would be like packing the Supreme Court, putting term limits on the Supreme Court. I think they want some type of judicial ethics panel that would look into members of the Supreme Court. And they said in their resolution, the court's far-right supermajority, which they don't have, poses a serious threat to any future attempts by Congress to realize the promise of a multiracial democracy. First of all, democracy is mob rule. That's why we don't want democracy. And I see no value in a multiracial society exclusively. Reign in executive power. They also want to tamp down the power of the presidency. Presidency's power has already been tamped down quite a bit during the course of the last 250 years. But it seems like the power of Congress and the power of the judiciary just gets bigger and broader every single time something is written. They also want to champion workers' rights. That is a communist dog whistle right there. They want to protect voting rights, which means they just want to let everybody vote without any sort of proof that you are who you are or that you're even an American citizen. And they want to restore and strengthen the federal protections against racial discrimination in the Voting Rights Act. So essentially, they will create legal racial divides and further isolate people of European descent. Now, Trump, when he responded on Saturday, he said that the Democrats will fulfill their dream of 21 Supreme Court justices, not just 13, which is an unlucky number, an impossible to beat number of electoral college votes, and that's the ball game. Popular vote landslides, and so much else. The Republican Party will never win another election. How much longer are you going to allow this to happen to you? They will terminate the filibuster in the first hour, and I'll be sitting home with tears in my eyes saying, I told you so. It's like I often think, like, what would be required to force the Senate to take action? I don't know. I honestly don't know what it would take. But it may be something that has to happen after the midterms when we have a whole new slate of people come in, which means that it is vital that we fix the elections before the midterms happen. I need to say thank you so much to MAMFC for the $100 rant, my friend. Thank you so much for your generosity. I really appreciate that. You do such a great job. We love your explanations. Good. I'm glad you enjoy it. I really appreciate you being here, and thank you so much for that support. Also, Principled Enigma, maybe some congressmen need to be held at gunpoint to do what's right in 2026, because in 1913, they held congressmen at gunpoint to sign the 16th Amendment. It's our turn. Of course, none of us would ever actually do that, Principled Enigma. That is a metaphorical stance based upon a historical event that took place. Just want to go on record to say that for anybody who might be listening. But, I don't even know that. Well, first of all, I don't think that's possible, of course. But I think that these congressmen do metaphorically need to be held at gunpoint, meaning they need to recognize the danger of the situation that they're in. I think these people are just blissfully removed from anything that's happening in the United States of America. They're not really informed. The only information they get is from the gatekeepers that work on their staff, and of course the lobbyists and the deep staters that talk to them, and maybe the intelligence community that is controlling them through their blackmail dossiers. But they're not out here with us. These are not normal people, even though they might seem folksy and like, oh gosh, he'd be fun to hang out with, or I bet you that guy's based. I generally like Tim Burchett, but, he's been living in D.C. for a long time. I can't guarantee Tim Burchett's a real dude. I would love to think that. But Tim Burchett is, if I had to choose somebody, he would probably be one of the only ones that I would say that dude seems real to me. But it takes a lot more than just a Tim Burchett, and we need a much larger group of people in Congress who are willing to have the balls to do something. Now, I think that with what Congressman Johnson, Speaker Johnson announced, that they are going to use reconciliation to pass the Save America Act provisions related to election security, which would be voter ID and no mail-in ballots. If they are successfully able to do that, then then all they were going to require is 51 votes in the Senate, and they'll be able to do that. And once that happens, I think we turn a page, and I think that perhaps some really incredible things might happen. Yes, WDB40, if you wouldn't mind, everybody, please go ahead and throw a thumbs up on the show. That really, really does help. All right. Now, is there anybody out there in the audience who has recently had a baby or is expecting to have a baby, or do perhaps have grandchildren that your kids have had in the last year? Because if so, I have a couple of friends who just recently had babies. And President Trump has delivered on one of his campaign promises, which was the Trump accounts. The Trump accounts have just gone live with their first 1,000 having been deposited into more than 500,000 of these accounts. Now, I don't know how many of these accounts have been set up yet, but there's an app. You download it. It's a very easy thing to do. I've spoken to a couple of parents who have gone through the process of doing this, and it's a win-win situation. It's free money. It's being donated by some people who are supporters of President Trump, including the Dells. Now, of course, the Dells are right here on the left. Mrs. Dell, I feel sadness in my heart every time I see her. She looks to me like somebody who has been just wrecked by plastic surgery, and I'm not a big fan of that stuff. I think that she was a beautiful woman before. She looked, normal and natural, and now as a result of plastic surgery, she just looks like somebody who's had their face pulled out across a mannequin and then tightly tied behind their head. It's just really sad. Anyways, so in another historic win for American families, President Trump and the federal government have begun depositing the first $1,000 into these 500,000 Trump accounts, which gives newborn Americans immediate ownership stake in the U.S. stock market and a powerful head start on building real wealth. I believe that there are also some shares of SpaceX, which are going to be going into this as well. President Trump this morning confirmed that these long-promised seed money flows are going into these tax-advantaged investment accounts that were created with the legislation that he and Congress got passed last year. This is obviously just a couple of days after July 4th. It's the perfect time to go ahead and do it. President Trump is pro-family, pro-wealth building. These are probably the single most pro-family and pro-wealth building moves that have been made in the United States of America since its founding. So President Trump said on Saturday, July 4th, our administration deposited one-time seed contributions of $1,000 into each Trump account of over 500,000 American children. It's a lot. And millions more will be getting additional contributions from generous donors like, as I mentioned, Michael and Susan Dell. Let's go ahead and hear it from President Trump.
On Saturday, July 4th, our administration deposited one-time seed contributions of $1,000 each into the Trump accounts of over 500,000 American children. It's a lot. And millions more will be getting additional contributions from generous donors like, as I mentioned, Michael and Susan Dell. They are truly incredible people. Go out and buy a Dell computer. He's not doing it for that. But I'll bet his business, Brad, has gotten even bigger. I have a son that loves their laptop. I have to tell you, no, I want a Dell. We're going to get him that money back one way or the other. And then I'll ask for another $6,250,000,000. We'll start the whole process all over again. No, he makes an incredible product, and right from the beginning. And Brad Gerstner has been pushing this, so he's a very successful man.
Yeah, I agree with you, Kyle. Clay Higgins and Eli Crane, they do seem real to me. And I've been a big fan of Clay Higgins for years. People who live in his district, they might have a different opinion of him. But back when he was a sheriff, I mean, I thought he was doing great things. And Eli, I've actually met Eli, and he is a real one. I don't talk about him enough because he's not in front of the cameras enough, I guess. But yeah, he is a real one for sure.
Quite as famous as the Dell family, right? Of Michael, but you are. He's an amazingly successful guy, and he's put up a tremendous amount of money. And again, I want to thank Mike Ryan and all of the companies that have already called me, and they're putting up a lot of money. This is nothing. This is not me. And putting the name on it was not my idea. That was a whole group of people that.
Yeah, Mimi, you're right. That does annoy me. That really does annoy me when people say that. Because if Burchett was talking about election fraud more than voting harder, I think that perhaps it would be better suited.
Passed legislation, because this is all made possible only by the passage of the great big beautiful bill. And I knew that this was happening, but I didn't know. All of a sudden, I see my name on it in the bill. But I'm very proud to have my name. They think it would sell. They said it'll sell better if your name's on. I said, look, leave it on. But
also, if anybody here gets a $100 bill with President Trump's signature on it, will you guys send me a picture of it? Because I haven't seen one in the wild, and I never get to the bank. I plan on going here probably in the next week. I don't know when they're actually going to be distributed, but when I find out, I'll let you guys know, because I figure I would love to just have one uncirculated and hold on to it.
I did not. I just want to. I did not ask for it. Michael, is that a correct statement? Did I ever go to you and say, Michael, don't put up the money unless they use my name? No. But I have done that in other cases. I will tell. In certain other cases, I've done that, right, Scott? But not in this case. This is a very special kind of a thing that took place. It's, in a way, it's a miracle. Nobody thought it was possible. Think of it. Children that are born without money, without any money. Great parents. They can have everything, can be great, but they have no money. They can become very wealthy children at 18, and they can flip it over, or their people can flip it over into other vehicles at a certain age so that they don't take it out. I would recommend they probably don't take it out, but they can have a lot of money, especially if the market continues.
All right, so a lot of money, I mean, it's a nice buzz phrase to say, but in case you're wondering who is eligible, all U.S. children under 18 with a valid Social Security number are eligible. Eligible children born in the years 2025 through 2028 are the ones that receive the initial $1,000 contribution from the Treasury. Family, friends, and employers collectively can contribute up to $5,000 annually. It's a long-term investment plan. As Trump was saying, if you leave it alone, by the time you're 18, you're going to have a certain amount of money, and then it's going to continue to grow from that point forward. So these are like IRAs, custodial IRAs for minors. The funds get invested into U.S. equity markets, mostly like S&P 500 index funds or other types of ETFs. Parents, grandparents, employers, churches, private donors, all of them can contribute. Personally, my grandparents used to give me savings bonds when I was a kid. And, when they passed away, that ended. But by the time that I was able to cash them in, they weren't worth much of anything at all. If this had been around for somebody like me, it would have been a much, much bigger help, especially when I was going to college. Now, the money stays locked away until that kid turns 18. They can use it for education, a first home, starting a business, or they can take it and invest it into something else that they want. There have been over 6 million accounts opened for these so far, and vast majority of families who have started them earn under $200,000. Private sector leaders have stepped up in a big way. Cyrus, I see your quote there. He says, all these elites Trump is getting to donate money to different things like the ballroom, Trump accounts, etc., are all probably people who were involved in corruption and the takedown of the USA that made a deal. I agree with you that at least some of them are. Others, I think maybe they are guilty by just not having said anything through all of this time. It doesn't necessarily, in my mind, mean that they're all guilty of having done something terrible. It could just be that they were cowards, and now they see that things are changing, and so they want to be on the right side of history. But either way, I do see it as opportunistic, whether it is in the interest of them just personally increasing the value of their personal brand, or they are trying to get out of some prison time or something like that. But the Dells have pledged $6.25 billion, and that is to give an additional $250 contribution to many millions of these qualifying children. Now, let's take a look at the actual numbers. We've seen this before, but if these children, if the children who are getting these accounts set up right now and no contributions are made, then there will be $5,800 in there by the time they're 18, by the age of 18, and then that $5,800 will have increased to $18,100 by the time they're 28. However, if the max contributions are made when that kid turns 18, that account will have $303,800 in it, and if they leave it alone until they're 28, they're going to have more than $1 million in there. So this is, I just think it's a wonderful thing, and I don't see why anybody would not want to do it. It's not like the government doesn't already have your name. I mean, these are going to be tax-advantaged accounts. These basically just it'll teach the kids how to invest. It'll make them, sort of conscious of money, and that's something that I see in a lot of adults is that they don't really understand how money works, how budgets work. This is why you have a lot of people who are grown-ups who simply can't control their own finances. I grew up poor. Okay, so I paid attention to how this stuff worked. I never had money to invest, but I definitely was careful with my money, and I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to spend myself into debt, or just at the very least, don't buy everything on credit and get crappy interest rates when you have to finance something. But the reason the White House reposted this is because Benny Thompson has come out and publicly tweeted that kids today should not sign up for these Trump accounts. Of course, he doesn't want people today to sign up for these Trump accounts because that might, in the future, put them in a financially advantaged position. But he rationalizes it by saying Trump University already taught us what happens when his name is on the brochure. Does a $25 million settlement ring a bell? The $25 million settlement from Trump University is because the same leftist lawfare hacks that went after President Trump for trying to save America went after Trump University to try to destroy that. Now, if that hadn't happened, Trump University would still be around and people would still be going there and getting an education. They just didn't like the fact that President Trump had his name attached to anything. If the Trump name is attached to it, then the deep state is going to try to attack it. Now, this, again, I just think is a no-brainer. If you have a child or a grandchild who qualifies for this, 100%, this is something that you should be getting into. Now, MJ Truth posted this, and I think I know what he's talking about. If you'll remember, several months ago, there was an announcement from the administration that for adults, people who do not have retirement accounts, I would be one of those people, what they want to do is give us access to the same congressional investment IRA that people in Congress have access to. And those people have, great retirements all set up. If I start putting money in right now, then I might have enough to go ahead and make sure that I don't have to keep working until I'm 90 years old. It'll be better for people who are younger, and I think that giving people access to the same tools that Congress have would be a major, major bonus. I think the same thing needs to be done with healthcare. We have really crappy healthcare options if you don't have a job at a Fortune 500 company, if you've got to buy your insurance on your own. Obamacare completely destroyed the private health insurance market. Well, I mean, it gave a major cash infusion to the private health insurance market, but it destroyed it for Americans. People in Congress have basically free health care for life. Why can't we extend that exact same health care plan to every single man, woman, and child in America? The same with the retirement accounts. I mean, people in Congress are not saving their money through Social Security. Why don't we take Social Security and put it into the congressional investment accounts? That way there would be Social Security available for everybody, and you wouldn't have to be stuck with such a small amount of money to live on until you die, and then all the money that you made while you were alive, that compounded while you were alive, could then be passed on to, say, an heir, or could be donated to something, or you could make the choice to just leave it in there and give it to somebody else. Right now, you get robbed by Social Security. But anyways, President Trump kind of hinted during this announcement that he wanted to do something else that Australia is doing for its citizens. I think he's hinting at what I just talked about, but I'm not familiar with the system in Australia, so I don't know exactly what they have there, but take a listen.
It's really not costing us anything. We're giving this money to...
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that everybody have free health care. I'm saying that Congress has basically free health care for the rest of their life, but that is a health care plan that is managed through a government account. It would be totally possible to have reasonable premiums for the same type of insurance plan that congressional members have, and then extend that out to the entire country. I know that free healthcare would mean that there would be no competition, and of course it would be totally awful. And just take a look at Canada or the UK, and you can see exactly what that does. But I think that there exists a healthcare plan that people could be included in, or you could at least have the option to buy into.
Children, so they can have a good life. Very early on, they can have a good life. And we're going to be doing also something we're working on later on, and it'll be also, I think, very popular. And I guess the best definition is they have a plan in Australia, which people really like. It's really worked out very well, incredibly well, and very respected. And we're going to be talking about that with Congress and see if we can implement it. And that would be more for grown-ups as opposed to children, but it's something that's going to be great, I think, if we can get it done, and we're going to try very hard. But again, I want to it's really not costing...
Okay, so they do have something called the PSAP Super, the Commonwealth Superannuation Corporation. That is through the Australian government. public sector superannuation accumulation plan designed exclusively for current and former Australian public service employees. I don't know if that's what he's referring to. But there are a number of different like pension and retirement plans which appear to come through the Australian government. Just imagine, if you will, if rather than Social Security, which is designed to fail, it's been raided by Congress on a number of occasions. If they were to take the money in Social Security and invest it into the market in the same way that they are investing these Trump accounts, the cumulative value of that money would be astronomical, and there would be more than enough money to fund the Social Security system as it exists right now. I got to be honest with you. I don't think Social Security is going to be around for me unless something really, really drastic changes. Okay, now continuing here, President Trump also, after this event in the Oval Office, made a jab at short sellers on the stock market. I hate short sellers, and I'm glad to hear that President Trump does too.
David, Goldman Sachs, Blackstone, BlackRock, they're all here. And think of it, I'm making them all geniuses. Every one of them is a genius. Is anybody doing poorly? If you are, I guess you have a couple of guys that went short. Those poor bastards, they're in big trouble. They're being wiped out, the short guys. I never like short guys because they're betting against the country, so that's okay. But earlier this morning, many of you joined me in the Oval Office for the ringing.
Markets can go down. However, I think that the American market is on the rise, and it's going to continue to rise because we are reinvesting back home in America. Since the United States government invested in Intel, it's up triple digits, okay? So, yeah, if we are protecting American industry and ensuring that American industry doesn't... Why are you embarrassed, Dom Dem? Why are you embarrassed? Anyways, if we are protecting American industry and investing in American industry, and that American industry is staffed by Americans, then I don't think that we need to worry about it going down. And if these accounts are managed by, say, the Treasury, Scott Bessent, or somebody with a similar financial acumen, I think that we could do this, and we could do it really, really well. Right now, Social Security is managed in some way. It has something to do with investment. I don't exactly know how they have that scheduled, but I think that there is a way to do it, and to do it smarter. Frankly, the systems that we have set up are designed to siphon wealth out of the American people, redistribute that wealth around to other people, and to essentially leave us living as paupers. They would rather that we just feel better dying rather than living a happy life. All right. Now, this is interesting. If you guys happen to catch me and BB last night on The Narrative, he had asked me one of the things that I am most excited about. And I said, in terms of the future, I see the government, President Trump's administration, bringing these futuristic technologies that the government has had in their possession for many years. If you've seen me for any length of time, you've probably heard me talk about the tragic theft that takes place out of the U.S. Patent Office. Anytime you have an invention by an American that is patented that is too disruptive, it is essentially stolen by the U.S. government, and then they take that technology and they develop it for themselves. And then maybe 30 years down the road, they might release it in some limited form or another. But Nikola Tesla is an excellent example of that. I think that right now, President Trump has been hinting for a long time about his Uncle John and, of course, his connection to Nikola Tesla. And I think that what we are seeing right now is the early onset of major technological innovation taking place here in America. And it's not that it's new technology, it's just going to be new to us. And I think that that will be achieved in a manner of speaking through the advent of AI and through the excuse of quantum technologies. A couple of months ago, I talked to you about a paper that was written by a former NASA engineer who has a private company that has essentially invented, and I use that in air quotes, anti-gravity propulsion technology. I don't think that that's anything new. I think that this is something that we've had for a very long time. And in light of that, the Department of War has just announced a defense patent holiday. So designed to transition intellectual property from defense labs to private sector innovations, this program provides companies with a no-fee commercial evaluation license to assess technologies with zero upfront costs. They are basically saying these are the technologies that we, the federal government, through our defense labs, have developed in secret. And you, as the American innovators, we are going to give you access to that technology, and then you can develop it for release to the general American public. This is really cool, you guys. This is really, really cool. To help industry partners capitalize on this opportunity, Next Flex US is hosting the Defense Patent Holiday Microelectronics Industry Day on July 14th and 15th. If I could go to this, that would be so awesome, but I know I can't. You can attend in person in San Jose, California, or virtually. If there's anybody here who has the ability to do this, man, if you want to go and like tell me about it, I would love to talk about it on the show. Attendees will learn how to access these federally developed patents, explore small business support programs, and tour the Next Flex advanced manufacturing facility. So yeah, I think that there is a tremendous opportunity here. And I know we've got some business owners out there in the audience, people who may have access to capital or who may already have infrastructure that's being developed. But I think that right here we are looking at what will essentially be just a sea change, a game changer in terms of bringing advanced technology to the American public. And you can go ahead and have a part in that if you want. And I think that this is really cool. So I'm looking forward to it. Let's see. Well, none of which can be proven because they have suppressed the patents and the technology and the inventions that have been produced, and they've used them for themselves. So I think that all of those things exist. It's just that the federal government has a policy of taking that and holding on to it and stopping it from being released. All right, now, did you guys see over the weekend, I believe it was on Friday there, oh no, I'm sorry, it was Wednesday, July 1st, there was a protest, an unauthorized protest by a U.S. Air Force Major Jason Watson. He's a staff officer that's stationed in Poland, and he got arrested on the Capitol steps last week. He held a sign up and spoke at an event. The sign said, "Impeach, convict, remove." Impeach, convict, remove. Obviously referring to President Trump. He called for President Trump and J.D. Vance to be arrested and prosecuted. Now, he showed up and did this in his uniform, and I believe that was the problem. And not only that it was an unauthorized protest, but that he was doing it in his uniform. So he opened his remarks by reciting his oath to the Constitution that he first swore 21 years earlier when he entered basic training at the Air Force Academy in June of 2005. He became active in May of 2009, which gives him about 17 years of active duty service. And before his arrest, he said, "Who I am is immaterial, and that what mattered was the price I'm willing to pay to save it." It is actually material, and he understands the power and the visual mimetic magic of showing up in his uniform, reciting his oath to the Constitution, and then saying that the president and the vice president should be arrested. Now, this arrest stemmed from protocol, not the content of his speech. Demonstrating on the House steps is illegal unless a member of Congress is present. Al Green, who is soon not going to be a congressman, actually escorted Watson to the steps, but then he left the area and he gave the officers that were on site gave Watson a lawful order to stop, and he refused to stop. So he was arrested under D.C. Code 22-1307, which is crowding, obstructing, and incommoding. He was released the same day. On Thursday, July 2nd, a D.C. Superior Court official said that the case would not be prosecuted. So he's not even in trouble. But Of course, the mimetic power of watching this guy in uniform get handcuffed by D.C. police and then led away, people are, of course, going to use that for propaganda. Now, Watson framed his protest around 4 constitutional claims, none of which have been decided in court. He argued that the strikes on Iran and Venezuela violated the War Powers Clause and led to the deaths of 13 service members. That's his opinion. That is actually not a undisputed fact. Watson is not a constitutional lawyer. He's more like a TikTok lawyer, and no court has ever ruled in his favor on that claim. So he's just speaking out his ass. He also argued that Elon Musk's access to federal databases through Doge was a violation of the Appointments and Appropriations Clause. Now, there are lawsuits challenging that, but there's been no wrongdoing that was proven, and Doge's charter has already expired as a separate federal agency. As you know, as we have shown, Doge has actually entered into the specific federal offices of the executive branch, and they have Doge employees now on staff in each of those various offices. He has also said that migrants deported to CCOT in El Salvador were denied due process. That is obviously totally wrong, because no migrants were deported to CCOT under any U.S. order. You had deportees who were sent to El Salvador because they were either citizens of El Salvador or their home countries would not accept them. And under Salvadoran law, El Salvador itself, not the United States government, determines who gets sent to CCOT as an alleged terrorist or gang member. If you'll remember, Maryland man Kilmar Abrego Garcia was a citizen of El Salvador, and that's why he was getting sent back there, because he was a known gang member and he was a wanted criminal back in his home country. On top of being a smuggler, on top of being a drug dealer, on top of being a gang member, on top of being a wife beater, on top of being an illegal alien, on top of having evidence to suggest that he was having inappropriate sexual relationships with children that he was smuggling across the United States of America. Now, he also cited the administration's response to protesters, including January's shooting of a protester with a non-lethal round by an ICE officer. He said that that was a First Amendment violation. However, the case he referenced involved an officer attempting to make an arrest of a protester. That was Caitlin Sky Seitz. She went by the name of Sky Jones. A fellow demonstrator, Caden Rumler, 21 years old, ran towards the officers and was struck at close range in Santa Ana, California on January 9th of this year, permanently blinding him in his left eye. Well, you know what they say, F around, find out. He went running towards these officers, and they had the right to defend themselves. And these non-lethal weapons were widely announced as going to be used. So it's his own fault as far as I'm concerned. Now, Rumler was a self-described member of the activist group Dare to Struggle. He is not a formal legal observer, so he had no legal reason to be running towards the officers in the manner in which he did. Air Force Secretary Troy Mink did not name Watson, but he mentioned in a statement that there was an investigation into this incident, and even if the court isn't going to prosecute him, this will proceed unimpeded, and that the department takes allegations of misconduct seriously, including any that may undermine the nonpartisan nature of our military. This action was anything but nonpartisan. So there is a relevant statute, Article 88 of the UCMJ, 10 U.S.C. 888, which bars commissioned officers from using contemptuous words against the president, vice president, and Congress. There's also a separate DOD policy that bars political activity in uniform. As of that July 4th arrest date, with no charge, there was no court-martial either. There was also no administrative separation that had been announced, but all of those things may be coming in the future. Possible outcomes range from a strongly worded letter of reprimand to involuntary separation or even a court-martial, and that all depends upon the findings of the investigation. Now, the event itself was organized by the Removal Coalition. This is a nonprofit organization founded by Jessica Denson. They said Watson had reached out to them in February. Denson has partnered with Free Speech for People, the Women's March, and 50501, and Citizens Impeachment on prior nationwide days of action, including a 28th of March event titled No Kings 3.0. Now, Watson said explicitly he is not a Democrat and he knows next to nothing about Green's broader positions, only that he backed Green because Green had invoked Rule 9 to force an impeachment vote back in December, and the House tabled that resolution 237 to 140. All Republicans and 23 Democrats voted to kill it. 47 Democrats voted present, and the prediction market Kalshi currently prices a 64% odds that Trump is impeached before January of 2028. I don't believe that that's going to happen. Now, Representative Green said he was there to witness a major in the U.S. military bend the arc of the moral universe towards justice, and he called it a kind of courage necessary to inspire others. Of course, he needs a lot of inspiration because he lost his Democrat primary early this year. He's probably not going to make it. Representative Christy Houlihan, also a Democrat from Pennsylvania, also an Air Force veteran, said it's great that Watson's conviction that he made this statement in uniform, despite the fact that it was illegal. Also adding, undoubtedly, he is aware of the consequences of his actions and he's willing to sacrifice his career and possibly his freedom. That is retarded. She also said she is enormously frustrated that her Republican colleagues, Speaker of the House and the Senate, remain unwilling to use their authority to call for Trump's removal. He hasn't done anything worth removing him for. Houlihan did not address the fact that the impeachment requires the House to determine that there are grounds for high crimes and misdemeanors. And of course, as of writing this, there are no high crimes or misdemeanors that the president has committed. Now, there are, of course, public fundraisers for Watson. He's raised over $139,000 on Spot Fund and just over $5,000 on GoFundMe. That was as of the writing of this article, which was this morning. Let me just pull it up. I'd like to see how much more money. This is obviously a slush fund, probably from leftist 501c3s, just setting up this. Oh, okay. So I don't know where to go for Spot On. I've never actually heard of that as a source of fundraising. It must be some leftist fundraising site. All right. Yeah, I don't know how to get there. But that was an article from Newsweek. Spot Fund. I don't know what Spot Fund is. Let me do a quick search for Spot Fund. Spot Fund, free online fundraiser. Okay, and what is his name? It was Watson. Major Jason Watson. Watch it just be a disgusting amount of money. Yep. Oh my God. It's now up to $296,691. Let's take a look, see if there's any major donations. Well, I saw a $500, I see a $250. Looking for like a $10,000 or more donation. Yeah, let's go top donations. There we go. All right, top donation was $1,865. After that, $1,776, another $1,776, another $1,776. So there are quite a few people who have donated to him. Quite a few names that have donated. Over 7,000 donations. Good Lord. It is so disgusting. But, obviously this guy wanted to he's probably going to end up on CNN or something like that. He's got a bright future in shill media. Okay. Now, before we continue, I've got one more brief message from our friends over here on Rumble. All right, you guys, I just need 60 seconds of your time. I got to shout out a brand that has been supporting creators on Rumble for quite a while. And, of course, my channel right here. It's Emerald Med. They're the guys that make CBD products from hemp, but there are a couple of things you should know. Instead of just using one crop, they actually use 3 different strains of hemp because there is no one single strain that contains every compound that they wanted to include for the top benefits. They combine both hot and cold processed extracts because some hemp compounds are activated by heat, while there are others that are damaged by it. And then on top of that, they also use raw extracts so they can preserve minor compounds, trace minerals, and micronutrients that typically get stripped out or lost. Their CBD oil alone has 6 to 9 raw batches blended into it. So instead of the 1 to 10 compounds you're going to get in a normal CBD product, these guys have 50 or more compounds that are included. There's a lot of brands that talk about freedom. They might wave the flag when it's trendy, especially over the 4th. But Emerald Med was using their company to fight for people's medical freedom back during the plandemic while getting bank accounts shut down and their tires getting slashed. They put money every year into fighting laws that limit access to health alternatives, and they often say that they want to make products that are so effective even Helen Keller can see the difference. Nothing is a cure-all, but it's worth a try. So maybe they can help you feel 30, 60, 80% better, and maybe it's enough to help support you sleeping well. Maybe it gives you a few hours a day of not feeling awful. Maybe it's just enough to be able to do things that you used to be able to do. And they are obviously celebrating America's 250th, and you can click the link below, or you can scan that QR code on screen right now and try them at a discount. Give them a shot. They are totally worth it. When you use that QR code or that link, you can get 40% off. It's totally worth a try, and thank you to them for supporting the channel. Really do appreciate it, guys. Okay. Now, final round of stories today. So Klaus Schwab, as you know, was kicked out from the World Economic Forum. He was under investigation, and as a result of that investigation, the World Economic Forum's board said that there were no specific wrongdoings found. However, it was enough for them to get him kicked out. Now, when you are the supervillain of the world's top globalist organization spreading evil around the world, and the people that you work with kick you out of that organization that you founded, you've got to be a real special piece of work. And we all know Klaus Schwab is eat the bugs, own nothing, and be happy. Klaus Schwab is like the picture postcard of the globalist New World Order deep state. So I took a lot of pleasure in the fact that he was kicked out of the World Economic Forum. Well, now he is pushing to return so that he can help influence this organization that he built. And he ran for over 5 decades. What he's doing, I guess, is sending legal notices to members of the current WEF board. And he's sending them a list of demands. That includes like legal threats, and he's asking for an advisory role on the board that would basically give him a say in selecting who is going to be on the leadership of the board in the future. And these documents have been reviewed by the Wall Street Journal. It was in a paywalled article. I wasn't going to pay that. So big shout out to the Daily Dots and Melissa Holman for writing this up. Now, the letters also seek to reinstate security arrangements and partial coverage for his own personal legal costs. So it makes me think that Klaus Schwab may not be doing all that well financially now that he doesn't have access to cooking the books or dipping his hand in that honey pot. He's 88 years old. He can't be around for that much longer, but maybe he's like David Rockefeller and he gets the new heart of an 8-year-old boy every 3 years. Who knows? He hasn't been there since April of 2025, so just over a year. Now, the current co-president of the WEF spoke with a Swiss newspaper back in January and said that Schwab would certainly receive an invitation to return at some capacity, and calling him someone of great importance given his influence on the forum's history is fair to say. He also added that he and the CEO of BlackRock, Larry Fink, the forum's other co-president, expected to continue chairing the annual meeting together in 2027, and that there was no request extended to the European Central Bank President Christine Lagarde, despite speculation that she might end up taking up the role. Now, this came out first, and then shortly after that, a report came out that Klaus Schwab had filed a police report because he apparently found some sort of a secret listening device in his home in Geneva, Switzerland. Very interesting. I gotta wonder, who is spying on Klaus Schwab? Is that some element of the U.S. intelligence community? Is that Interpol? Is it people currently working at the WEF looking to get some dirt on him to keep him out of the World Economic Forum headquarters? I don't know. His home is apparently not far from the WEF headquarters, and he has no idea who may have put this listening device in his house. Apparently, there is an investigation underway by the Swiss police, and I'll be very interested to know who it was that actually put it there. Now, that's really all on that. But I have a series of stories of major downfalls taking place as we speak. Early this morning, right around the same time Klaus Schwab announced that he had found a spy device in his home, Graham Plattner, the Democrat candidate for Senate in Maine, announced that he was canceling all future campaign events. He apparently had a couple of town halls that had been scheduled, and immediately people assumed what is probably correct, the worst, that there was likely going to be some new damaging information coming out about him. The Nazi tattoo was not enough to derail his campaign. The multiple reports of women saying that he had either sexually assaulted them or made some really inappropriate comments to them, that wasn't enough. His Reddit history coming out and showing that he had a bunch of rape fantasies, that wasn't enough. His presence on the notorious pedophile messaging app Kik apparently wasn't enough. But there was something that they were working on, which was going to finally be enough to have him at least put the brakes on. So there was a town hall that was scheduled for last night in Augusta. That was canceled. A Gorham town hall canceled tonight. That was canceled. A Sanford town hall also tonight, also canceled. And many people wondered, what would it take to have Graham Plattner drop out? Now, remember, he is the Democratic nominee, so if he drops out, Susan Collins will essentially be the only person running. If he drops out, I believe, within the next 2 weeks or something like that, they will take his name off the ballot, and the people of Maine will only have one choice, and that will be Susan Collins. Susan Collins is not that much better, but as President Trump said, at the very least, she is not an insane person. Well, it turns out that it was another sexual assault scandal. That was what was planning to be released. And now this was a report that was exclusively released by Politico. However, I hate Politico and I don't want to give them the clicks, so we're going to look at the rundown coming from the Gateway Pundit. So the claims made in this article by Politico are from a 41-year-old woman named Jenny Rassicott. I guess she was an ex-girlfriend of Graham Plattner, and she claims that he broke into her home and raped her in the middle of the night. She said, "I remember him grabbing my pelvis and being really forceful of me. I remember the specific moment where I thought to myself, this is no longer my choice." Now, she had also previously told the New York Times that Plattner's behavior was unsettling and reckless, but this article with Politico is the first time she's ever detailed what she labels a sexual assault. Of course, Graham Plattner has completely denied these allegations in a video that he posted to X, which we are going to watch.
I wanted to directly address the troubling, serious, and false allegations against me. Any accusation of non-consensual behavior is categorically false.
Now, normally I am not a believe all woman kind of guy. I know that sexual assaults take place, but I also know that in relationships, especially if you're a guy like Graham Plattner, who has like a online persona where you talk about this being your thing, I would imagine that this woman, since she was his girlfriend, they must have had a sort of baseline established with their sexual relationship. So, maybe she didn't like the way that he was acting in the middle of it, and she didn't say it, and she just let it happen. I feel like there's a real fine line when it comes to rape, and you're in the relationship with that person. Like, you know, certainly like women who ask for divorces and then their husbands rape them, and, you know, I mean, obviously that's one thing, but I don't know. I don't have any reason to believe this woman. I also don't have any reason to believe Graham here. I think that he's a certified piece of shit. I'll be perfectly honest with you. And I will, you know, thoroughly enjoy watching his campaign crumble, because that's exactly what's happening.
Over the last 10 months, I have been deeply humbled by the faith Mainers have put in me. You have welcomed me into your homes, into your places of work.
He's also the guy who was running like an Antifa training camp. He was like, he had like an Antifa gun and range training program that he was running.
Into your restaurants.
Big Mike!
Into your houses of worship. You have shown that a different kind of politics, one that puts the interests of people over corporations, is not just possible, but is inevitable. This movement we have built, the largest volunteer base in the history of Maine politics, the hundreds of thousands of grassroots donors, and the supporters across the ideological spectrum, we were united in a love of Maine, a belief that our politics must change.
Now, it's also worth mentioning that Graham Plattner has not released his Q2 fundraising totals yet. I think that it's entirely possible that all of this negative press and all of these claims of sexual assault and the really creepy behavior that he's engaged in over the years, having been revealed during the second quarter, probably hurt him financially. And yeah.
And a focus on defeating Susan Collins. So, regardless of the inaccuracy of the reporting, but mindful of the political reality it will inflict, we are taking the time to reflect on the best path forward.
Oh, he's taking the time to reflect on the best path forward. That means he's going to suspend his campaign, but he just doesn't want to say it outright. If I had to guess, I would say Graham Plattner is probably privately going to make appeals for donations from some of the big money people that still support him. He's also probably going to reach out to all of the big names in Congress who have already come out publicly to support him, see if he can get them to come out and once again publicly say, we don't believe these things. If he can get enough big name people like Ro Khanna or Ruben Gallego, who just can't seem to make friends with anybody who isn't attached to sexual assault in some way, then he may continue his campaign. But I think that what we're going to see is all of those big Democrat names who had previously backed him, they're going to slowly walk away. If he can get more money on the back end as he's on his way out, then obviously the man is going to grift.
For the state that I love, the people that I love, the movement I belong to, and the goal of defeating Susan Collins.
I would also love his wife. He's married, okay? His wife had to publicly come out and basically admit that he had cheated on her and that she didn't leave him. You know, I mean, like, I understand relationships are complicated, but how humiliating for his wife.
Those were the goals when we launched this campaign, and they remain my goals today. On June 9th, 154,058 Mainers, the most in primary history, voted to reject a broken politics beholden to Washington and the donor class. They voted for hope, for change.
Barf! He's got to bring up the Obama talking points. You know, the thing is, I don't disagree with him. Politics is dirty. It is run by a group of political elites. It's a club that they don't want you to get into. The only problem is, like, this is not the guy. Okay, this is not the guy. I understand people want to vote for something different. They want to believe that they've got the power to bring somebody in who's a political outsider. But, you know, that's why we elected Donald Trump.
To take back our economy, to take back our power, and to take back our Senate seat. Throughout it all, you never turned your back on me. And I will not turn my back on you now. Every one of you deserves to see that vision come to fruition and see Susan Collins defeated. And we will use every tool at our disposal to do so. As Maine goes, so goes the nation. As always, thank you.
Yeah, he's done. He's done. I just saw somebody in the chat say that Ro Khanna has pulled his endorsement. Ro Khanna previously had said, if any credible allegations of sexual assault are made, I will no longer support Graham Plattner. And it looks like he's reached his breaking point. Ro Khanna is getting exposed as well. Oh, now the press jumps in. Hold on. NBC News, it's been more than 3 weeks since Senator Mitch McConnell, who turned 84 in February, was admitted to the hospital, though his team has not disclosed why he was hospitaled nor provided any details about his condition. I think that's the first time I've seen mainstream media commenting on this. Byron Donald staffer assaults Fishback security as he tries to enter Republican meeting. Get the F back. Okay. Let's go ahead. How do you spell Ro Khanna? Is that just R-O and K-A-N-N-A? I don't know how to spell his name. Let's do a search spelling it incorrectly. Oh, it's with a K-H. Oh, wait. It's been very clear that sexual assault or violence against women is a red line. These allegations are very serious and credible. Graham Plattner should drop out from the race. I am withdrawing my endorsement. And here looks like we have a picture of the woman. It is starting to look like people at the New York Times lured in one of Graham Plattner's victims to try to bury the story for him, but were forced to publish something watered down due to apparent infighting, which is what came out yesterday. In a word, and this is from June 5th. This is a month ago when we got that first series of articles. It dawned on me that this is really a setup all along. The journalists I trusted who convinced me to share a story I never wanted to tell methodically delayed and twisted this into a gift to the Plattner campaign, violating the trust of his victims, shattering the trust I placed in them in the most vulnerable story of my life. Ma'am, you shouldn't have trusted the New York Times if you wanted the truth to come out. Really unfortunate. But at least it's happening now. Let's see. That looks like Ro Khanna has not deleted his pull of the endorsement, but he is definitely pulling the endorsement. Okay. One final piece here. The FBI, as you guys remember, admitted to paying Twitter to suppress the Hunter Biden laptop story. Now, the Freedom of Information Act, when you apply for a FOIA request, it doesn't apply to records that are related to FBI payments. So we can't figure out how much money the FBI paid Twitter to allegedly get them to censor stories about the Bidens before the election of 2020. We also can't figure out exactly if they paid social media companies to delete accounts like mine or any other people out here in the audience who may have had their accounts taken away from them because we were talking about a very real, incredible story. Now, a federal judge has been slapped down by the appeals court for abuse of discretion. There is a continuing contempt investigation of the Trump administration related to its deportation flights. He saw nothing wrong with secretly authorizing the Biden administration to pore over the whole digital life of President Trump's friend and former advisor, though. Now, government watchdog groups are pressing different judges in D.C. federal court to try to get the books opened up on the Biden regime's alleged censorship industrial complex and the weaponization of the federal government against their political enemies. And as this FOIA case nears its conclusion, Michael Caputo, a Trump ally, is seeking to get a peek at the search warrant that was issued against him and was authorized by now infamous U.S. District Judge James Boasberg. That judge who had no problem tearing apart the life of President Trump and the people around him, but has done everything within his grasp to stop illegal aliens from being removed. Now, the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, wrongly claims that a FOIA exemption for records compiled for law enforcement purposes is a shield of its payments to platforms, which include the formerly mentioned Twitter, who were 100% known and confirmed to have received more than $3 million to process these censorship requests. And the new Civil Liberties Alliance said this in their motion for summary judgment against the FBI. I don't know why the FBI is fighting this. This is something that I think needs to be revealed. So Judicial Watch asked Judge Boasberg to let their client, Michael Caputo, intervene in the legal process against him, hidden from Caputo for a year at Boasberg's direction. Boasberg needs to be completely removed from the bench. That guy, he should have been impeached already. And again, these people in Congress are disconnected from reality and what we have been going through out here in the real world. Michael Caputo wants to unseal materials related to the sweeping November 18th, 2024 search warrant for his entire online private life as it was hosted by Google, whether it was email or banking records to his calendar, to his search history. Congress is considering whether or not to statutorily prohibit the practice. It's called jawboning. This is when the government leans on private parties to take actions that are unconstitutional for themselves to commit. So Senators Ted Cruz, Ron Wyden both introduced the Jawbone Act last month. This is good. This would authorize victims of government-directed censorship to sue agencies or employees for jawboning, whether it worked or not, and they could seek monetary damages. Please, Lord Jesus, make this happen. Agencies would also have to show Congress certain communications that they've made with companies. I want all of it to be revealed. The bill would stop the Biden administration's use of Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, to pressure big tech into canceling Americans who spoke out against vaccine mandates, election fraud, many of those things. The most blatant example for Wyden is Trump threatening cable companies that he doesn't like their late night shows. Well, he's not exactly threatening cable companies. I mean, these late night shows are broadcasting on federally licensed spectrum, and they have rules with the FCC as to the exact nature and content of their broadcasts. It has to be in the public interest, and it has to be evenly dispersed. Now, the FBI has, of course, been exposed for their $3 million payment to Twitter. Legislation in 2023 was filed to impose a one-year moratorium on taxpayer funding from the Department of Justice to social media companies. And the subject of the NCLA's FOIA request and audit payments by the DOJ and big tech actually go back to 2015. The Elon Act was named after Twitter's new owner, Elon Musk, whose invitation to journalists to dig through the company's files exposed these vast communications with the federal government and these speech policing groups, oftentimes 501c3s that were funded by the federal government, but they were private because the government couldn't do the things that they were asking the 501c3s to do. They were allegedly stopping misinformation and disinformation on the subjects I mentioned before, whether it was COVID-19, vaccines, the pandemic, the Biden laptop, all of it. Now, this FOIA suit for records related to FBI payments to social media is currently pending before U.S. District Judge Carl Nichols, and it's one of many that have been filed by watchdog groups seeking to get the information about the Biden administration's communications with big tech, which includes two very specific meetings between the FBI and Twitter. Now, for more than 3 years, the FBI has acted as if the NCLA had requested only one discrete category of records, which is convenient enough, but the government could refuse to even search for under what's known as a GLOMAR response, which means that to confirm or deny its existence would imperil law enforcement operations. The federal government is not supposed to have in the relationships with social media companies to stop the speech of American citizens. How would giving this information up, how would it affect ongoing investigations or ongoing law enforcement operations if that's no longer happening? So these civil liberty groups have deliberately requested records on FBI payments to Twitter and comparable entities. So that would include Facebook or YouTube or any of that stuff, for all of the time spent processing any FBI requests, such as to induce, facilitate, or compensate other actions intended to limit speech, not just for their compliance with routine legal processes. That means one FOIA violation, the government's illiberal interpretation of its records request, led to another FOIA violation, their inadequate search for records, this motion now claims. And the FBI instead reproduced a heavily redacted couple of documents, duplicating and slightly supplementing a production from another prior FOIA lawsuit, and they never tried to segregate any of these responsive records. Now, the FBI could determine the law enforcement exception applies only after reviewing its reimbursements and their purposes, which might reveal payment for its content moderation suggestions, informal takedown requests, or whispers that companies should modify algorithms to further the FBI's interests against misinformation, NCLA argues. And the watchdog group said it was obviously not asking for investigative files concerning a particular individual or records whose very existence necessarily reveals a protected law enforcement technique. Since the FBI has already admitted to paying Twitter, they can't invoke the GLOMAR to each and every requested record. So the U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals for D.C. has already prohibited agencies from invoking FOIA exemptions when they have officially acknowledged otherwise exempt information through a prior disclosure. They've already admitted that it happened. What's the harm in telling us exactly who they paid and for what? Now, given the fact that FBI Director at the time, Christopher Wray, testified to Congress 3 years ago that longstanding federal law, the 1986 Stored Communications Act, requires them to pay companies for their costs in responding to a legal process, the FBI also cannot declare harm would come from confirming or denying the existence of these very records that are sought. So the government's response to this motion is due by August 14th. And a political consultant turned documentary filmmaker who investigated Hunter Biden's foreign business dealings before joining President Trump's third campaign for president, Michael Caputo, learned he had been targeted in a criminal investigation only after it was shut down. He learned this in letters that were sent between Congress and the FBI and then revealed by Just the News. The FBI went after him 2 weeks after he joined the campaign. They targeted his email with the campaign's private strategies and deliberations present in those communications. And the motion to unseal this stuff by Caputo, who is the former Assistant Secretary for Public Affairs at the Department of Health and Human Services and a self-described longtime ally of President Trump, dances around criticizing Judge Boasberg for authorizing such a far-reaching subpoena, and then, of course, gagging Google so they could never tell Caputo about it. This court has both the authority and the duty to consider the public's qualified First Amendment and common law right of access to judicial records. The government has no compelling interest in continued secrecy, and both Caputo and Judicial Watch have powerful interests in disclosure. This is obviously information that should be made public, and Michael Caputo was the one who was directly affected by this overbroad subpoena looking into his life, and it's no mistake that it was Judge James Boasberg who did it. I'd also like to mention to everybody that FISA Section 702 expired several weeks ago, and there have been no terror attacks. There have been no terrible things that have happened. FISA is gone for all intents and purposes, and that means that your private communications are not being listened into by the federal government or any of these rogue intelligence agencies. I would hazard a guess that the feds have got any number of ways of listening in on our enemies and making sure that they're not going to do something that's going to hurt us. So hopefully it continues in that manner and FISA silently goes the way of the dodo and never returns. All right, a couple more thank yous I need to get to over here on Rumble and then over on Pilled. Let's see. So, Principal Enigma, you understood me correctly. I just like to hit hard with what I say. I should have stated that right in the chat. It was just a suggestion. I already have a target on my back from what I've said on X. Not a problem, sir. That is why I did the quick decode on the fly. Thank you again to Cyrus the Great. Thank you to G. Fontes for a continued rant. He said, well, I'm going to go back to the first one. There are at least 13 to 18 states that are in some binding agreement I was made aware of when CIA Scamberger signed on to Virginia that as soon as they hold a majority, those choose either the overall majority of the ballot count for presidential election and either do away with the electoral count, having the electors pick the majority winner, but may also reserve the current system to ensure they win. Yes, you are correct. And That is obviously certainly distressing. Principled Enigma finally says Nazi Germany had anti-gravity using counter-rotational toroidal magnetic fields. Contrary to what somebody in the chat said, this is provable and verifiable. We have the videos and photographs. Counter-rotational magnetic fields produce a perpendicular gravitational field that can be reversed by reversing the rotating magnetic fields. And yes, I would also direct you to the white paper that I shared several weeks ago. There are a number of different means of electrogravitic propulsion that exist out there, and I think that they're currently being used by the U.S. government. All right, over to Pilled. Thank you to Filter Dog, who says the current code for West Palm Beach Airport is PBI, but it is in the process of changing to DJT following the airport's renaming to President Donald J. Trump International Airport. I love it. Absolutely love it. Sean Joe, thank you very much for the cookie, and another cookie, and another cookie, and another cookie. Laura Y412 says, did you miss the part that Dell's Billions is going now for children that were born 2016 and on? I don't. I've heard it, the Matrix playing it. I just don't know the amount. I have not heard that, and no. So I will look into that, and we will talk about it tomorrow. Sean Joe, thank you for 3 more cookies. Filter Dog says, big moment in the Tyler trial. So, you know what, I'm going to hold on to this for tomorrow because I wanted to wait for the preliminary hearing to be completed before I got into it. But yeah, we'll talk about this tomorrow. Thank you. And then Sean Joe, thank you for 3 cookies. All right, guys, that's it. Don't forget about the final sponsors of the program. All the links are in the description below. I did that interview with Pet Club 24/7 over the weekend, and the link to redpillnews.petclub247.com was not only written on screen on multiple occasions, it was also the first link in the description just below where you watch the video. And saw somebody comment that they couldn't find the link. I find that inconceivable. Hopefully you found the link. But if you ever have questions about the links, including my address or my web address, redpill78news.com, or an email address for me, or any other number of things that you might want to find out that you might think you need to email me for, it's in the description of every single video on my channel. Please check that out. Good luck. God bless. I'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. for another episode of Red Pill News Live, and I'll be back tonight at 10:30 on Badlands Media for another exciting episode of Baseless Conspiracies. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace.